And welcome to another edition of International Soccer Break. I'm your host, Sahil, here with Rahi and Ishana, and we are talking Champions League, UEFA Champions League. This show is going to the top because we're talking about the greatest club competition in the world. So, which game do you guys want to start with? There was two games. Maybe we start with the Real Madrid.
Yeah, the heavyweight battle. Let's start with that one.
Well, let's start with the fact before that I'm sad that City got out because I'm a City fan. But then we can start with those games.
Right. It's not like they didn't win everything possible last year.
And it's not like they won't have a chance to win the Premier League this year, which we will also touch on a little bit later. But okay, let's get into this match. Just off the top, what was your reaction to this game? A lot of interesting storylines within the match.
It was a very typical Real performance. And at times in the first half, they looked like they were going to do what they do, which is find a way to survive, counter at will. And Bayern looked dead, honestly, for periods of the first half. I thought they were done. And then Sané comes up with a moment of absolute brilliance. And then they're the only team in the game. And then you think Real's dead. But as Madrid does over and over again, they find a way. Kim all over the place in this match. A terrible mistake late. And they get the tie. And honestly, they look like favorites at this point.
I mean, honestly, at that point, I was hoping, and I love Modric, so I feel bad saying this, but I was hoping that he would take the PK and then miss it, because he tends to do that. Just because, yeah, I don't know. I'm down for like an all-German final. I think we haven't had that since, what, 2012, 13?
Yeah. Exactly, 2013. For those out there, what they don't know is that Rahi actually lived in Madrid, and he's actually a Real Madrid fan. Rahi tends to support a lot of different teams.
Well, I also lived in Paris, so also PSG. It tends to vary, but I do like. I've always liked Madrid. I saw the Galacticos a long time ago, the original ones.
You're proudly wearing their jersey right now, correct?
I am.
Show everyone so that they can see.
Like, I do change jerseys from time to time.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about this one storyline. I think this is the main point for the viewers out there. There's a lot of credit that goes to Bellingham. We hear about him every single day from everyone, and especially being English. That's an even added. We hear more than perhaps some other players, but he's definitely had a great season. And there's a lot of other players on Real Madrid that get credit. Obviously Modric has been a stalwart for them. Toni Kroos has also been there for a lot. Benzema before, yeah. But one player that I think we should focus on a little bit is Vinny Jr. because he's really come into his own now, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for the success that Madrid's having this season.
I mean, to your point, Ishana, who's the guy taking the penalty in the pressure moment? It's their real game changer. And Bellingham has been a game changer this season. He's elevated this team. But their match winner is Vinny Jr. And he has been for a few years now. And for whatever reason, he's not mentioned in the same conversations as the Kylian Mbappes, as the Benzema before. I'm not sure why that is, because he is that good a player. And on a day like today, when they win this, they find the late draw, it's all Vinny Jr., right? I mean, yes, it's a great ball by Kroos, and then it's a mistake, but he's the one driving the engine always. And it's a game really where Bellingham didn't do much at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not understanding why he's not getting that attention, especially as a striker and a finisher, just like being able to convert, because even Bellingham, I mean, he's extremely talented, but he tends to make some mistakes, especially as of late. And I just like, at the end of the day, I feel like if I place Bellingham against Vinny Jr., I'm gonna expect Bellingham to sky his PK, and I don't think Vinicius will.
I mean, but also broadly, right? We hear a lot about Erling Haaland. We hear a lot about even Harry Kane now, what he's doing at Bayern. And for whatever reason, in the same conversation, Vinny Jr. isn't always mentioned. He is, but not in the same way that you hear about the Mbappes. And I mean, he's a little older in some, but I don't understand that. I think he's underrated or underserved from a sort of conversation standpoint.
I think he's 100%. He's an underrated player, and I think he's been like that his entire career. And if you look at, Real Madrid has been dominant in the league this year, and they've been so far pretty strong in the Champions League. We'll see what happens in this tie, but this game was all Vinny Jr. I mean, he's the sole reason that Real Madrid is going back home with a 1-1 draw. So something to look.
I'd give Kim some credit too.
That so okay. Before we get off this topic, just want to ask real quickly, Ishana, how do you feel about a coach publicly calling out a defender like that, like Thomas Tuchel did for Kim Min-jae?
I mean, it's just unnecessary to me. I mean, he knows that he cost this. I mean, there's very little to do at that point in the game. Like, all you have to do is, like, hold them off. And it wasn't a situation where it was like, oh, is this a PK? Is this not a PK? That was clearly a PK. It was clearly a flagrant foul. Like, there's no, he knows that he just screwed up. And I don't really think there's a reason to sort of pile
Tuchel's
on
a strange guy. He called him greedy. I don't know, the words he used and the way you're calling out an individual player, knowing full well, I mean, sure, he knows more than anyone else that he made a mistake. I don't like it. I didn't like Tuchel, the way he talked about players at times, even when he was at Chelsea. He's strange. He has a strange relationship with his players. It's been a disaster aside from this Champions League this year with Bayern. So I don't know if he lasts.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. But anyway, 2-2 after the first leg of that match. Moving on to the second match of the round, so to speak, is Dortmund PSG, and this one turned out a little bit differently than people may have expected. Obviously, there were large portions of the match where PSG was dominant, but it was Borussia Dortmund that got the victory, Rahi.
It's shocking. I mean, you would say Borussia Dortmund is not one of the 4 best teams in Europe. No way. But somehow, some way, they're in a position now where they have the advantage going into the second leg. And you could look at this as a typical PSG choke job in some ways, but you can look at it as a very professional performance for Borussia Dortmund. And they were the better side for most of this game. And I don't think PSG did enough. And it was this sort of professional performance from a Dortmund team that has somehow found themselves in this position, and they have 1 foot in the final now.
Yeah, so Shauna, you mentioned this. All German final is on the table after Dortmund's performance. Is this reflective of the new powerhouse in football that's going to be Germany again, or what? What's going on here?
I mean, I feel like there's so much buzz around teams like PSG, around teams like City. It is kind of nice to just hear these names being tossed out again. Like Bayern and Dortmund is, I think, a surprise to a lot of people. But I mean, I'm for it. I think it's like a nice, it's, at the end of the day, it's a reminder that at the end of the day, everything that it's these 90 plus minutes that matter, and not the chaos and kind of noise around it.
It really speaks to this German professionalism. I mean, these are 2 teams that have already lost the league. They're not the best teams in Germany. It's incredible, right? So they've already lost the league. Bayer Leverkusen run away with the league. And now you have 2 teams that could end up playing in a final in a year that you would say it's a weak Bayern team. You'd say it's a Dortmund team that blew the title last year and is not particularly star-studded. It's really incredible. And it speaks to something I think we've seen over the years with the German national team, is just they show up to tournaments and surprise you because they know how to play these kind of games. And they sort of stumble around, and all of a sudden you're watching a final and Germany's in it. And it happens time and time again. And they're about to host the Euros, by the way.
Yeah, I think also like Neuer doesn't get enough credit. He honestly has some great saves, and he's sort of like he's very consistent, even like I credit to him, at that age.
I mean, who is this guy?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Nicholas Füllkrug kind of, I think, epitomizes the German national team as I see now, because they've had a couple bad tournaments, right? Like in Germany as a whole. I mean, Rahi, you and I went to the game with the US playing Germany, and we were saying, oh, we're catching Germany at a great time because they're, not at their best. And it's interesting because Nicholas Füllkrug came out of nowhere, right? He was basically, for 10 years of his career, essentially, he was on the youth team, and then he basically, didn't get a call up to the main national team. And then he got a call up to the last World Cup. And now he's, the most prolific striker in Germany, arguably, who is German, right? And pushing against some of the other talent like Harry Kane and stuff like that. So this is quite a story, to reinvent yourself, in your early 30s or late 20s.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Germany. For every Mesut Ozil, every Michael Ballack, they have a Thomas Muller, right? A player who's not as technically gifted, but just does everything right. I'm not saying Füllkrug is Thomas Muller, but in the vein of somebody just found a way to do all the little things right.
I mean, people have this whole thing about like, everyone's peaking in their 20s, but I honestly like a lot of players they'll reach their highest professional achievement in their 30s, arguably. I mean, Messi won the World Cup, and to him, that's probably his highest professional achievement, although other people would probably maybe think differently. But it's, I think there is something to say about just maturity and having, experience and being seasoned and, knowing yourself a little bit better. And I'm 30s are the new 20s, you guys. And 40s are the new 30s.
I think we can all all get behind that. So look, both German teams I think are in good positions heading into the next legs. Of course, though, they'll have to play away now, and that's when the real test is going to be. So let's see, is it going to be the PSG Real Madrid final that we all talk about in terms of the star-studded teams? Yes, or is it going to be the all-German final? We will have to see. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe to the channel. Any final thoughts as we move forward?
Well, I think our family dog she's a German Shepherd, and I think she would be very pleased with an all-German final, even though she is quite an American dog.
30s are the new 20s. That's what I'm all about that. 30s are the new 20s.
30s are the new 20s. Everyone out there, keep watching the beautiful game. Keep watching the Champions League. We'll come back to you for the second leg and more football/soccer to come. Have fun, everyone.